partnership at ICF and also a board member. Today, we are navigating the journey from PCC to MCC, one of the ICF Saudi chapter events. And also, we are celebrating the 30 years of ICF and 10 years of the Saudi chapter. Please follow us in our WhatsApp group and all of our social media platform. I will be putting in the chat, in the Zoom chat now. And also for webinar, including LinkedIn and Instagram. And this year is promises to be fascinating for all coaches in Saudi Arabia as we celebrate these two milestones. If you haven't read, by the way, there's an important note. If you aren't or haven't registered your name correctly in the registration link, you still have the chance to do so now. For the certificates we will issue at the end of this webinar. So please write your name correctly in the Zoom chat. Or if you entered in a nickname, please write your name correctly in the Zoom chat. Also, you have the chance to correct it. And I have shared the links now. Regarding this event aims to raise awareness for ICF members with our strategic partner, Beckett McInroy. About our speaker today, Dr. Clare Beckett McInroy. She is the founder of Beckett McInroy Consultancy Coach Me, ICF MCC and ACTC, and EMCC MP and ESIA certified. Also, she is a winner of the 2023 ICF Coaching Impact Award. She specializes in coaching for global clients, mentoring coaches, and delivering accredited training programs. Dr. Claire is also a published author and an international speaker, focuses on executive coaching and development. The floor is yours, Dr. Claire. You can start the session now.
Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you, ICF Saudi Arabia. 10 years is absolutely fantastic, and I've seen such changes in the region, in Saudi Arabia, and also the awareness of coaching has definitely grown through all your hard work. So thank you for the invitation today. And we've got a little celebration as well at Coach Me Beckett McInroy. We've actually hit 15 years of working with leaders and coaches in training and coaches going up their credentialing ladders. And so big celebrations for all of us today. And today we're looking at navigating the journey from PCC to MCC. And if anyone is on the call and they're working towards their ACC or working towards their PCC, then please do interject, ask questions. Of course, a lot of this information is useful for all of us, and I'll certainly be sharing some sort of top tips for masterful coaching aligned to the ICF MCC bars and the PCC markers, and also, of course, the core competencies. And some of the things we've noticed over the years that work, the way they work systemically for us, for our clients, and also to have impact for our clients as well. And so this is quite an eclectic, holistic presentation in terms of the many things that we'll bring in. And I'd love it if you joined in as well. And in about 45 minutes, I'd like to do a demonstration. So if you're feeling that you need a little bit of coaching today, we will record the demonstration. And of course, if you are the one who's coached and you decide that you don't want that recording to go out there, then I know that ICF Saudi will delete that bit of the recording before it's posted onto their YouTube channel. So let's get started. So I'm ICF MCC. I've renewed my MCC 3 times. I'm also a master practitioner with the MCC in coaching, mentoring and team coaching, and an accredited supervisor with EMCC and the ACTC Advanced Certification in Team Coaching with ICF, Certified Agile Coach. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that my coaching's morphed, it's changed, it's evolved. It is more eclectic, using numerous different models, tools, techniques, and approaches. And I think this is helped by being able to coach people at different levels in organizations, work with different schools around the world, and, you know, really unpack what enables masterful coaching to happen, the impact of it, and as well as that, who we need to be, the way we need to show up to ensure that masterful coaching takes place. So we do work in organizations, leader as coach, for example, as well as, of course, coaching, but also we have public programs. Some of the awards that have been mentioned there, and the Middle East Prism Award, that was an exciting journey creating a coaching culture with Qatar Financial Centre. And the top right, the Coaching Impact Award, we were the first school to receive that. We deliver ICF level 1, 2, and 3. We map all our programs to the UK qualification framework. We also deliver 3 different CCE programs and the advanced accreditation in team coaching for you to be a credentialed team coach with the advanced certification in team coaching. We deliver other things as well, but that's enough of that. So I invite you now to consider, in this landscape, let's use it metaphorically. And you can come off mute or you can type in the chat. Where are you metaphorically in this image in terms of your journey to coaching mastery? Where are you right now today? And if anyone would like to share, you're very welcome to.
Yeah,
We've got, please do.
in the middle, you know, in the middle.
In the middle. And you're in the middle because.
In the middle, because what I like in the middle, I can see the yellow grass, let's say, orange one, and in the circle, there's green, which I pass away from past then I moved all the way from the gate till here, which is my level now, which all the experiences and the years that I'm coaching, practicing coaching, and I'm here in the middle, actually looking to the front, where's the palace. I think this is Versailles, right?
I think it is, or it's certainly based on that from AI.
So yeah, I'm looking for the square area where the grass is orange there, where I need to improve all my skills more, have more knowledge, more techniques, more tools, adapting myself with more tools to be able to enter the palace. Whereas the palace, it's the big achievement for me and all these things. So I'm in the middle. I have some green and I have some green grass, let's say, or trees, and I have the orange grass, which is, for me, it's like autumn season, so it's dry. I'd like to add the grass there in the middle of the circle. It's like small trees, which is it's a sign for growth and development.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
What's
much for sharing. Shukran jazilan. And Banu,
Hello, nice to meet you, Claire.
You too.
I think I am very close to the final place for the palace to enter in, but I have no ticket yet. I have to pass first to get my first ticket in ICF for getting my PCC soon. And then I am sure I will be very, very close to enter the palace. And again, I need another more ticket to visit all the palace. This means MCC level. I feel I am qualified coach for many years, but I am new in ICF. I'm just joined the ICF my chapter a few months ago. I will see what will inside, and I hope I will be very satisfied with ICF too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share? Maybe one more. Okay, so let's move on. So let's get this sort of technical bit out of the way. In terms of gaining Master Certified Coach with International Coach Federation, you need 200 or more hours of coaching education, 2,500 or more hours of actual coaching experience. And of course, we know there's percentages in terms of what need to be paid and what can be pro bono. 10 hours of mental coaching with an eligible mental coach. That mental coach needs to be MCC to be able to mental coach someone who's going for an MCC credential. And you need to hold or have previously held your PCC. You also need to complete, which is a passing score, on the performance evaluation. That is 2 recordings that are submitted direct to ICF. The schools cannot assess the MCC recordings. We, of course, support you. However, it's ICF who does the actual assessments direct, and also a passing score on the ICF credential examination. And you must also be a coach of good standing. So ICF also wish to ensure that there's been no, complaints submitted about you in terms of ethics or other things in that area. And this slide, of course, it's from the ICF website. There are 2 routes to go for your MCC credential. And one of them, and this came out, I think it's about 2 years ago, is the level 3 path. And the other one is the portfolio path. Now you'll notice if we start at the bottom, it's 18 weeks around, sometimes more, sometimes less, in terms of the assessment of the recordings. That bit does take some time. The application fees are the same with a different price for members of ICF and those that are non-members, because we can have a credential without being a member of ICF. And the written exam, the knowledge assessment, is required for both of them, as is submitting 2 recordings and a transcript. Now, mentor coaching is part of any level 3 program. And if you're adding up for the portfolio the different amounts of training you've had from different places, you will, of course, require a mentor coach, be it part group and part one-on-one. You have to have at least 3 hours of your mentor coaching for MCC that is one-on-one. And you can't count the hours of mentor coaching that you received for your PCC. It has to be new 10 hours of mentor coaching. And then in terms of coaching experience, exactly the same. And it needs to be at least 35 clients. And then the coach education is included, the knowledge elements, the assessment of skills in terms of the behavioral competencies, providing you with feedback on your coaching, as well as ways to work together in contracting and following the ethics. Whereas in the portfolio, it may be that you're putting the jigsaw together from CCEs and other things. That's one reason people feel that a level 3 program, which has been designed specifically as advanced coach training for you to work toward your MCC, may actually be more advantageous because it was designed specifically for that purpose compared to putting the different bits of training together to add up to 200 or more hours for the portfolio route. Okay? And so, what's important in terms of the training? Well, research shows that blended learning, not just lecturing, lots of different styles of learning, definitely, whether it's live online or live in person, a percentage of the training, and ICF right now say 50%, needs to be live. And the other bits we provide our students with, for example, assessments that they can listen to recordings and then critique them. And that's one of the assignments that they have to do. We encourage them to reflect on their coaching to see what are the strengths and development areas and do that in triads, listening to each other. But also skill drills can be really useful. When you use a particular model, tool, technique, or approach, and then you have a go. So maybe with the people that you're training with, and it's specifically focusing on that particular competence or that skill. It may be giving space, allowing clients even more time to think. And we work specifically in skill drills, having a go at enabling that to happen in our coaching. And the other thing that's really important here is that blended learning is seen as a better approach than traditional methods. Now, traditional methods are considered things like the person who's delivering the training is there to impart knowledge. Well, actually, if you look at the way that adults learn best, it is by having a go, experimenting, getting feedback, then going and having a go again. And then the other thing is companies have prioritized customized training, specifically assessing the needs of the individuals, seeing what they need in terms of their roadmap to their specific development goal. So one thing we did in our level 3 that's pretty unique is people can choose their roadmap through the program. There's lots of different modules and they can choose, with our support, of course, the best way forward for them to complete the different modules to be able to gain the MCC credential through the level 3 pathway. So this is the, the theory behind using industry examples, using examples from our faculty. We've got 10 MCCs on the faculty, and we share examples of the work we've done with clients, obviously with confidentiality, to bring the competencies, the core competencies, the PCC markers in the MCC bars to life so that you can see them in practice and understand how they work. So this is about having a go, failing, learning from that, practicing, exploring, connecting with things that are meaningful specifically to you, and of course, being curious and going round this learning cycle again. So, level 3, path or portfolio. As we've shared, the main difference is the way that the actual training hours are collected. and also that the level 3 includes the required mentor coaching. And it's specifically designed for that particular route, that particular path to MCC. I won't keep you on this slide for very long. We've included, when we got together as a team of MCCs, the things that we know enabled us to gain MCC. And also the things that we know enabled us to feel like we were coaching at MCC at masterful level. So we include a 40 CCE mentor coaching certification. So you see the competencies inside out and upside down, but you also feed back to others about their coaching. And the reason we did it like this was because we know that seeing the competencies inside out and exploring them helps people to become MCCs quicker, for those recordings to pass more effectively. And also you get CCEs along the journey. So some people join the program at the start, just as they have got their PCC, and they do it over, for example, 18 months. And they get CCEs as they go, just in case they need to renew their credential during their MCC journey. But also it means that you've got things that you can add to your LinkedIn profile, to your bio, etc., so your clients can see that you're still continuing with your development, and you don't have to wait till the very end of the program to get the level 3 certificate. You get CCEs as you go. We also know that understanding and practicing and being supervised helped us to become MCCs. And of course, ICF taking supervision way more seriously over the last 2 years. I supported them in creating the supervision competencies as a working party, and it's required, especially for the advanced certification in team coaching, and it counts as resource development hours. And when you supervise, it's like learning twice. It's like learning over again, because we're at the privilege of learning with our clients about their particular things that they need to resource, things they need to grow in terms of confidence, things on the business side that they need, and also that restorative element, washing away the niggles, or, you know, things that have happened with clients, and we need to recalibrate to enable to be at our best. And so you get a professional certificate in supervision, and we do masterclasses with all of our MCCs. You get the actual mentor coaching. We add in there supervision as complimentary, and you get MCC recordings that you can critique. You can start the program at any point. So any of those things, you can choose which one. We do suggest do the 3 one-on-one mentor coaching at the end of the program. At that point, you'll have got all of these things that you've consolidated, and therefore you'll be able to pass those recordings that bit quicker. You can do these things one at a time, or you can do them simultaneously. And of course, you get CCEs as you go. Now, I'm going to just pause there and see if there's any questions, and then I'll talk about why is eclectic coaching useful for moving towards mastery. Anything in the chat that's come up that people wish to ask, wish to share? Any questions at this point? Then we shall continue.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you, Claire. Would you go again to the slides where it is like where you showed us the program? Not this one. Yes, this one.
This one?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So if I'm interested to take the MCC level, but I already took a lot of educational CCEs, and I have like extra more than 40 hours. So what is this? Is this compulsory to take a mentor coaching certification?
So what we do, we take each individual case by case. Some people who've actually gained their MCC, we've had one person this year who's done every bit of this program, even the mentor coaching, because they want to continue with development. I had a mentor coaching session the other week and it was fantastic because it's recalibrating, being aware of maybe bad habits that are coming in. So of course there's still benefit. And if someone has already had training in, for example, supervision or training in mentor coaching, then we ask for a little outline of the curriculum. I get online and have a chat with you and we see, is that bit still needed? So for example, if you didn't need the mentor coaching certification, we of course reduce the price of the program. We can accept, and we've cleared all this with ICF, we can accept accredited prior learning. So this is something that if people are familiar with ILM and universities, this is where we look at what you've got, ensure we're confident and comfortable that you don't need that bit of the program, and we can still give the level 3 if you complete the other bits. So case by case is the answer.
Thank you so much. This is very clear now. Thank you.
Afwan, no problem. And so, any other questions? So this slide and the next slide, we could spend another 3 hours on. What I'm doing is Zubda in a nutshell, high level, sharing the many different, ways to coach. And what I've noticed is my coaching blends in different approaches. And that means that in my toolbox, I've got so many different things that I can then choose specifically what to use with my clients. And so if we go here, first of all, to the person-centered, solution-focused, time to think, the Nancy Klein work, giving real spaciousness in the session. What do you need to achieve? Why that goal today? And when you've achieved that, what impact will it bring? Those types of things. And then the cognitive behavioral is seeing things from different perspectives. The bird's eye view, the meta view, looking down on the situation, or a fly on the wall, or your future self, or what would your 7-year-old self say to you about this? Or, and when you are that senior leader, what would that senior leader say to you right now? So it's thinking about things in different ways. Of course, with all of these, there's much more to it. We're touching on the surface. And the behavioral approach is also about change in behaviors are brought about by, I hate the word punishment, but a pull and a push and navigating the obstacles along the way. So Carol Dweck at Harvard talks about towards and away from. Are you moving towards what you want, or are you moving away from what you don't want? And moving towards what we want and realizing why we want that is actually a more positive way of doing things. So, the role model, what's the goal? Where are you now? What's the reality? What are the options you've got? How willing are you to act on them? And then wrapping up. Now, that is a behavioral approach. And we know that masterful coaching isn't linear. 1, 2, 3, 4, halas. It's actually blending in things like, which is in our Coach Me model, which we translated into over 30 different languages, And of course, for Saudi, we've got it in Arabic for you. It's actually looking as well at setbacks and dependencies. What may hold you back in achieving this result? So what I'm doing there is blending solution focused with maybe a behavior that will hold us back, as well as bringing in different ways of seeing, looking at things from what may hold you back. And then with Gestalt, and I'm doing this one deeper in a minute, but there's things like change comes from increased awareness. So it may be cognitive awareness, the left logical, the right creative, and also the emotional. What are you experiencing? And the somatic, what's going on in your body, that tightness in the chest, or, you know, that heavy feeling in your shoulders. So change comes from increased awareness. But also with this, we've got things like exaggeration. What if you had more of that in your life? What would that be like? Or what if you deleted some of these things? What would that bring to you? What would that bring to your family or the team that you lead? And so I'm also blending in there a systemic focus by not just the client, but what will be the wider impact from the work that they're choosing to do. Okay, any questions there?
Can I ask a question?
You don't need permission, just ask away.
Okay, so I can see here psychological approach.
Yes.
So when you say cognitive behavior approach, because do you mean here CBC, not CBT, right?
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
All coaching comes from the foundations of psychology. Now, on our YouTube, we've got I forgot her surname, Irina, who has done a session from our Coach Me community cafes. We have monthly complimentary community cafes in the Coach Me community, and everyone's invited. And she shares a great webinar on the psychology, the foundations of coaching. And if I find it before the end of this webinar, I'll put the link in the chat. What these
Yes.
are is so much from coaching, and we're finding the same in coaching supervision now. So much we borrowed from therapy. Now, if it's cognitive behavioral in a therapy perspective, it's about the past and fixing and healing. When we use cognitive behavioral tools and approaches in coaching, we may dip into the past because they may bring up an experience at school or the fact they're a middle child and what it was like in their family of origin. And we then encourage them to be in the present. And now that you've reflected on that, what's going on for you here and now? So we bring them back to the present and consider the future. So that's the difference between cognitive behavioral approaches in coaching and cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, thank you
Does that
for that.
land? Is that clear?
Yeah, it is clear. It's clear because I had one time I had a discussion with a MCC coach, and he said, it's like to conduct MCC session, you're gonna use like bar as if you are using CBT, as if.
So
So
I'm quite strict in terms of not using the acronym CBT because it's got the word therapy. However, I would say using cognitive behavioral approaches.
yeah, because I learned that we use cognitive behavior coaching, CBC, which is like we encourage the change, the awareness, all this stuff. Thank you, Claire. It's very clear.
Pleasure. And the thing is, with this particular piece of the pie, it's about practice. And so the client, let's say the client wants to communicate more effectively. The client then has a plan, and we talk about integrating the learning from the coaching session into their world out there with the people that they live with and work with and their communities. They go away and they practice, and then coming back to reflect on the impact of that practice. And that is the essence of a cognitive behavioral way of coaching, by what needs to be done. Let's practice it right here and now in the session together. And then they go away and integrate it. I love that word, integrate. Integrate it into their world. Now, as well as these psychological perspectives, there's some more as well. Okay, so let's go from right to left, seeing as this is for ICF Saudi Arabia. A systems approach. Instead of, what do you want coaching on today? Well, I always tend to use need. What needs to be our focus together? Notice as well, I'm blending in their partnership as well. What needs to be our focus together? But even more than that, in a systemic way, we can ask, what do your clients need you to focus on today? And using the word need instead of want makes it more compelling. What does your organization need you to focus on today? So that is just one of the many things in terms of bringing in a systemic lens. And then the neuroscience, with a major alarm bells and caveat. Neuroscience is in its infancy. More research is needed. We're getting more and more on coaching technology and AI. However, more research is needed in this area. And from fMRI scans, there has been research in terms of which bit of the brain is lighting up when certain things take place in a coaching session. Okay, so it's in its infancy, and there are some papers out there to share with us what works. Of course, more of the neurons lighting up means that that is actually enabling more parts of the brain to be working when we use a certain approach. So this is one thing to do with neuroscience, research that shows if we ask a what question, that enables the prefrontal cortex, the executive functions, and the right side of the brain to light up, compared to a why question that can actually cause a little bit of conscious or unconscious defensiveness and take us to the left logical side of the brain. And people may actually, if we ask them a why question, answer with a because. Okay, and it becomes more black and white and logical. And actually in coaching, we want people to tap into their creativity and seeing things from different perspectives. So that's just a very little window of neuroscience. Psychodynamics, I've mentioned a little bit here in terms of when I shared about if someone brings in the way things were in the past, in my old job, or when I was a child, or if we say, what was the first time you remember this happening? Maybe they're nervous around presentations and they say, oh, it was when I was doing my qualifications at school, my exam, and I had to stand up in front of the class and speak. And I remember viscerally what that was like. They remember in their body what they were experiencing. So I'm actually blending in there also a somatic approach with the psychodynamic approach. And we then, as I shared, if we stay in the past, it tends to go into the realms of therapy. Come back to the presence. And now that you've shared that, What are you experiencing in your body right now? That type of thing is psychodynamics in coaching. Okay? And what way does this impact you in your work today? Again, it's asking them to think deeper in terms of the impact, and it helps people realize how important a topic is to them. And then the somatic, which I've mentioned briefly, someone I was coaching the other day, and they were talking about the fact my hands feel really cold right now. And so we go there, and you've shared your hands feel really cold right now. What might that be about? And then we're actually enabling them to connect even more with their body. So, person-centered, humanistic approach, and also the transpersonal, that can be related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that. And the top, self-actualization. But the fact that we are not living and being in this world in isolation. And when we lean in and work for the bigger purpose, it may be climate change, for example, then we're creating a better world for everyone, including our children's children. And so, just sharing here that to be able to blend this into coach training, it's not just telling people the way it's done. It really is listening and skill drills and having a go and little quizzes, all sorts of approaches, and ensuring that a program that you choose, it allows for your learning style. So are you a visual, auditory, you prefer listening, kinesthetic, you want to do, activist, pragmatist? Is the coach training school tapping into neurodivergence to enable people with learning differences to access their program fully? So in that light, we do things like in person, different tools and models on the floor, and we physically walk around them. We do that on Miro online, so you can move your face or your counter to different places. Another example here, learning about personality types, or using image cards metaphorically to, like we did with the little activity at the start of this session, and also things like Lego to enable us to learn at our best. Now, what we advocate, and it works, is using reflective models. This one we've adapted from Gibbs' reflective cycle. So if we just walk around this quickly, I invite you for a minute to consider a coaching session, someone you've been coaching. It may be a one-off session or it may be a session over time. And just have a think for a second. You may want to write this down. You may want to close your eyes and connect with that person you were coaching. Have a think for a second, a description. What happened? It may be what happened in the whole of the session. It may be what happened in a particular bit of the session that went really well. Or where you were thinking, I don't know where to go next. And there's about 5 different ideas bubbling in my head. Henley Business School are doing research at the moment for anyone who's had more than 10 years of coaching experience to consider what enables them or what encourages them to make certain decisions in the moment in the coaching session. Really interesting. So what happened? And what feelings or experiences, emotions did you have in that session? Were you a little bit nervous? Were you feeling free and confident? What have you got now when you reflect on that session? Evaluate what worked. You may be thinking of certain competencies. What didn't? What needs your focus? What needs you to shine a torch on it right now that in future practice you might wish to do differently with this client or around this topic? Analysis. What was the impact of what you did? What happened? And then conclusion. What are you taking away from this? What are you learning about yourself? What do you need to do differently? Action plan. What will you do differently? By when? How will you do it differently? And the integration there with the sunshine and the flowers growing top left. What's your commitment to integrating this into your future practice? And then the last bit, which we can't do right now, is you taking this learning away, playing with it, having a go of it in your future practice, and then coming back to the model and describing what happened. And of course, the cycle can continue. Now, from that little bit of reflection, would anyone like to share what came up for them? What's your learning from using this model just now? What's your learning from the reflection? Maybe even what do you commit to acting upon in your future practice? Anyone like to share? So one thing that when using this model, learned moving from PCC to MCC is to be more connected, feel freer, and not worry. If something doesn't land, then we just throw that away and go to a different place with our clients. And even saying to the client, where do we need to go next? They may have an even better answer of where we need to go next in the session than we have. And so that's one thing I learned when moving from PCC to MCC, using this model as a way to reflect. And we can use this in supervision when it's around topics like confidence. We can use this model in mental coaching when it's upskilling, moving up the competency framework. Anyone any questions or thoughts here?
Yeah, I do have a question here.
Wonderful.
So what if our client or the one what they were working with is not into this kind of visualization or deep reflection? So how can we also work with that client in an MCC session when they are not, just in case that they are not really into getting deep and that kind of reflective practice?
So 3 things here. Number one, the way I've described it just now is using this model for you as a coach to reflect on your work with your clients. However, thank you, because absolutely any leader can use this in terms of reflecting on their work with their people, their clients, their teams. Anyone who's a parent can use it. Oh, could I be working differently in conversation with my teenagers, for example? And if you're doing MCC submissions and your client doesn't like to go deep, that might not be the right client for you to be submitting a recording from, because MCC work, less is more. Less areas, less topics, takes people to deeper places. And we need to talk less. We need to ask less questions, and we need to give them more space to think. How does that sound to you?
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Okay. So just a couple more things. Stay with there. And I've pointed out here where the MCC bars fit with these different things. Stay with them for even longer. Stay with that reflection that they're in about who they are, the way they're showing up, even longer. Stay with them with their values. Go to metaphors and other things to enable them to connect. You may want to blend in them sitting in another chair, the Gestalt approach of looking at things from different perspectives. Even online, they can physically move from one perspective to another and seeing things from an observer perspective as well. And also, acceptance is in here in terms of none of us are perfect. And tapping into our strengths, but also the fact we are brave enough to identify development areas. This is all that holding the space and working on the relationship so that the client can be vulnerable. Tapping into their uniqueness is also beautiful and quite often shows up in MCC recordings. Having a go with them. So let's say someone wants to go for a promotion. Have a go right there. Encourage them. I invite you to. We're not telling them or leading. We're just giving an invitation. I invite you to speak to me now as if I'm your line manager and have a go at that conversation that you've identified that you need to have. If it happens in the session, it's more likely to happen out of the session. And then also be aware when they're not quite finished with something in the session. You know, they look up one way or another. Have they got closure, or do we need to be with them even longer? But also at the end of the session, what's a way for us to close this session effectively? Being fully present, listening beyond words. Feeding back to them what we're noticing about their tone, their pitch, their volume, their posture, their movements. You know, if they're, they look uncomfortable about something. Giving insights and observations, because that helps them. Sometimes they're not aware that they're messing with their hair, for example. I notice you're messing with your hair right now. What might that be about? And it's amazing what comes from these sharing of observations. I've talked about the different perspectives, sitting in different views, different chairs, and also enabling them to connect the parts. If someone is, for example, working on their confidence in one part of their life, let's say it's about speaking up bravely, then 99.9%, they probably need to work on that in other parts of their life as well. And so here we're coaching the person, not the topic. And it leads to transformation that's sustained as opposed to just small changes. Appreciation. When we share back things like, I noticed that was difficult. I appreciate you sharing that right now in our session. So it's appreciating the bravery, celebrating together, and holding the client naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. Exaggeration when they're talking about something. And then we say, what if you bring even more of that into your work? What will that be like? And using a phenomenological approach, what's happening for you right now? Sometimes they can't see the wood for the trees. And then we may go to a different place, but then use it again. And what's happening for you now? Because all the time there's little shifts in the session. So keep getting them to connect with self and what they're experiencing. I'll share these slides. There's information about our community cafes. They're all on our homepage of our website, just beyond the bios. Some of the tools and techniques we've used over time, there's commendations there. And our contact details. And so what I'd love to do now, not like an act in a circus trying to blend all of that into a short coaching session, because that wouldn't be in service of the client. However, I'd like to demonstrate using different tools and techniques and approaches in a short coaching demonstration, and then we can critique it for strengths and development areas together. So, who would like to be coached? I've also put my LinkedIn in the chat. And I'll put the homepage so you can find our community cafes as well. Anyone like to be coached? And if we've got no volunteers, are there any questions about anything I've shared?
I have a question.
Thank you, Rasha.
You're welcome. So in an MCC session, so let's say now, just to recap to understand correctly that this is how I see an MCC session. It's all about the why. It's not about the what. I talk less. They talk more. I notice the verbal and non-verbal signals or glimmers or anything that's happening. I don't use any tools, I think. No, nonetheless, no tools. I give them the space just to go deeper and reflect more about anything they want. So did I recap everything? Or maybe there's things that I would like to add more in this picture that I'm painting for the MCC session.
Oh, what a lovely metaphor, the picture that you're painting. So I love everything that you've said, and I'd give you a top mark in terms of how effective you are at listening. And there's two things I'll point to. When I'm coaching, I very rarely ask a why question. I tend to always ask what questions. So that's one thing there. And the other thing is, I'm curious when you said it's not about using tools. Say a bit more about that, or give us an example about a tool you're thinking of when you said it's not about using tools.
So for example, if we, the balance wheel and maybe just the whiteboard or stuff like that, that would maybe cause a little bit of distraction, or maybe suitable for action-oriented session more than a deeper reflective session?
So for MCC, it needs to go deep. Top tips are go to values, unpack beliefs, and also enabling them to connect with who they are being, the way they are showing up. You can even go existential. What is your life purpose? And what way does this session lead you towards your life purpose? If you're using the wheel for MCC, thinking about it, it may be just one part of the wheel. So it may be about health, or it may be about giving back. You wouldn't go deep enough. I'm thinking out loud here, but this is the way I feel about it right now. You wouldn't go deep enough if you focused with them on the whole of the wheel, unless there was something that really connected everything. In terms of using a whiteboard, a flip chart, a whiteboard online, nothing wrong with that at all, if it feels right in the moment. And I may even say to them, what way can we work around this, and give them an invitation to consider, do they want to use image cards or metaphors or Lego or the whiteboard or pros and cons or whatever comes up, or somatic work. So tools, absolutely, and remembering that less is more. I hope that helps, Rasha.
Yes, thank you so much. So again, if I would recap, then let's say not a full recap, just if I focus on the who, then so it's like the who from the beginning of the session until the end of the session. Of course, not a forced way, within the flow of the conversation. So then, at the end, if I would ask, so who are you becoming by the end of our session today, or what's becoming different from you? Or if we say, Claire, what's becoming different for you by the end of our session today? So this would be something that would be good enough for an MCC session.
That is beautiful, because we're working with them as a human being in our world. What shifted for you? What's different in terms of your thinking? Now we're closing the session together. Absolutely. And that bit around what ways will you integrate the learning that you've had in this session into your life?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, when you said about the who, I thought you meant questions starting with a who. Not that, no one fails if they do one who question. And I believe, Rasha, you were talking about coaching the person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Coaching the person. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Claire,
Thank you.
I believe there is a question for you in the chat box by Yasser.
You mentioned in the beginning that one of the thought-provoking questions is why now? Should we keep it as is, or we need to rephrase it? So if you ask why now, it's absolutely fine. And the main thing is it's short and it gets back over there to them. If you ask a big, long question, sometimes it almost needs re-saying for them to be able to grasp it. You could say, what's important to you right now? When it's the start of a session, I often ask things like, what topic's important to you today? Or what do you need to focus on? And then taking that deeper, Why this topic today? What do we need to achieve together in this session around this topic? Specifically, what do you need to leave with? And also, what way will we measure success for our session? So it was just rephrasing why now slightly, but if you asked why now, no issues at all. In certain languages, I'm thinking German, some people go, how come? Now in English, it doesn't land quite as well. However, it's like, it's just saying why. Now you might get a because. So I tend to use, what's that about? So be aware with all of this, different languages, words don't always translate, or sentences don't always translate as smoothly. So be aware of that as well. I do my coaching, apart from the odd word now and again, I do my coaching in English. And again, our field needs more research in terms of all these things I'm saying and the way they play out in different languages. I hope that helps, Yasser. Anyone else? Wonderful. And so if you want to say it out loud or if you want to put it in the chat, what's your biggest learning from this session today? Anyone like to share? Thank you, Yasser. So if you look at the MCC bars, that is in a way your guidance, the behavioural anchored rating scale. That's what ICF used to assess MCC recordings. Less is more. I like it. Noticing my blended approach to coaching. Yeah. Incorporating the we instead of you. And that really hits the partnership. I mean, we say the new competencies, the ICF new competencies came out about 3 years ago, but the word partnership's in there about 1 million times. So yes, absolutely. And it does support the relationship. So May, it feels like our session has come to a close.
Yes, yes. I think now our timing is finished. So I would like to conclude now. So please stay tuned for our future events. Also, we have an exciting lineup planned for the coming months, aimed at enhancing your coaching skills and providing valuable networking opportunities. So again, I will share the links as well as the links shared by Dr. Clare. Please check them all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming today.
Shukran jazilan. Ma salama. Bye-bye.
Thank you.